We're in chapter 6, text 31. Such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service of the Supersoul, knowing that I and the Supersoul are one, remain always in me in all circumstances. So Krishna is referring to here, let's kind of review the past a little bit. He's talking about a true yogi who observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized person sees me, the same Supreme Lord, everywhere. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I'm never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. So basically, we discussed last week about how anything in this world can remind us of Krishna, and anything can be used in service to Krishna as an instrument in serving Krishna. And those who do that, for them, chapter text 31, Krishna is saying, such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service of the Supersoul, knowing that I and the Supersoul are one, the Krishna and Paramatma are the same, remains always in me, in Krishna, in all circumstances. A yogi who is practicing meditation on the Supersoul sees within himself the plenary portion of Krishna as Vishnu, with 4 hands, holding conch shell, will, club, and lotus flower. Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma. That's how Supersoul is. Paramatma is, Vishnu in 4-armed Narayan form, right? Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma. So that's the form of the Lord that is within the heart region of all living entities. The yogi should know that Vishnu is not different from Krishna. Krishna in this form of Supersoul is situated in everyone's heart. Furthermore, there is no difference between the innumerable Supersouls present in the innumerable hearts of living entities. So it's not like there's like 10 people here, so there are 10 Supersouls. It's one Paramatma who's manifested in all the different hearts of all living entities. There's one Paramatma, one Krishna, one Vishnu, right? One personality. Nor is there a difference between Krishna's conscious person always engaged, between a Krishna conscious person always engaged in transcendental loving service of Krishna and a perfect yogi engaged in meditation on the Supersoul. The yogi in Krishna consciousness, even though he may be engaged in various activities, while in material existence, remains always situated in Krishna. This is confirmed in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.187 of Srila Rupa Goswami. Nikhilasva api avasthasu jivan mukta sa achyate. A devotee of the Lord, always acting in Krishna consciousness, is automatically liberated. In the Narada Pancharatra, this is confirmed in this way. Dikkala, so in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is quoting different scriptures to corroborate what Krishna is saying in the Bhagavad Gita, right? So that to give it more authenticity, so that we understand it from different vantage points. By concerning, sorry, let me read the Sanskrit. Dikkaladi anavachinne Krishna cheto vidyacha tanmayo bhavati shipram jiva brahmani yojayat. By concentrating one's attention on the transcendental form of Krishna, who is all pervading and beyond time and space, one becomes absorbed in thinking of Krishna and then attains the happy state of transcendental association with him. Krishna consciousness is the highest stage of trance in yoga practice. This very understanding that Krishna is present as Paramatma in everyone's heart makes the yogi faultless. The Vedas, Gopala Tapani Upanishad 1.21, confirm that inconceivable potency of the Lord as follows. Ekopi sa bahudha yo vabhati. Although the Lord is one, he presents in innumerable hearts as many. Similarly, in the Smriti Shastra, Matsya Puran, it is said, Eka avi paro Vishnu, sarva vyapi na samshaya. Ashwaryad rupam ekam cha, suryavat bahudhyate. Vishnu is one, and yet he is certainly all-pervading. By his inconceivable potency, in spite of his one form, he is present everywhere as the sun appears in many places at once. Now, based on this understanding, my question to all of you is Sanatan Dharma a polytheistic religious system, or is it a monotheistic religious system?
A monotheistic system.
Prayash, you don't sound very confident.
Yeah, it's monotheistic.
You're confident? Good. Okay.
Yeah. 100%.
Why is it monotheistic? Those who attack the Sanatan Dharma, saying that, oh, you believe in many gods and everything, how would you respond to them? Prayash. You're muted, Prayash.
So we don't believe in many gods. So there is only one God, and others are demigod. We call them gods. So they are not gods. Only God is Krishna. So others are demigods. Yes.
Okay.
So it's a monotheistic system.
Okay. Yes, Shivam, go ahead.
Yes, sir. So Sanatan Dharma is monotheistic because we believe on Krishna as a supreme Godhead, and all the demigods work under him. So Krishna is situated on the topmost of the chart.
So we believe that. What do you mean by that? Is it a belief or is it a fact?
Sorry, it's written. I mean, it's defined and it's constructed.
There you go. That's
It's
the word.
well engraved.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yogesh, you mentioned monopolytheistic, but primarily monotheistic. Please explain.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So so it's a fact that it is a monotheistic because there is only one ultimatum, that is Krishna and nothing else. But just for the sake of variety, we have so many other deities given to us, and such that to cater to each individual's needs and likings. So in that way, it is polytheistic, but it leads to monotheism.
What does monotheism and polytheism mean?
Polytheism is worshipping of multiple or different number of deities, and whereas monotheism is just one and nothing else.
So if I worship Lord Ram, Lord Narsimha, Krishna, Balaram, is that polytheism or monotheism?
It is actually monotheism, but it leads to monotheism then, if I may put it that way.
So my understanding, and I might be wrong, but my understanding is polytheism means believing in many gods. Monotheism is believing in there is only one God. Like in Islam, they say there's only one God, there's no other God but Allah, right? So similarly, in the Bhagavad Gita, also Krishna is saying there's only one God. There is not many gods. So it's not polytheistic. You respect all demigods, you respect your parents, you respect your grandparents, but that doesn't necessarily mean you worship them as God. So it's a monotheistic religion.
Okay.
I don't know if I want to call it a religion, but monotheistic way of life, monotheistic process. Yeah, that's our system.
Okay. I just have another follow-up question. So, so for Vaishnava sect, we know that, it is monotheism, but let us say if someone's from the other sect, to them, it is another deity or a demigod alone. So how would they, take the approach to this?
To an atheist, there is nothing, there's no theism, it's all atheism, right? So if everybody were to see the truth from their perspective, and that is the truth, that is relative truth. What we talk about is absolute truth coming from scriptures. What do the scriptures say? For any Hindu, for any court, where do they put their hand on when they're taking an oath? It's the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is the essence of the Sanatan Dharma. It's the Gita Upanishad. It's the ultimate Upanishad of all the Upanishads. And what is that book saying? That's all that matters.
Okay. So it is relative truth, and it's not.
Yeah, people can have
follow-
relative truth. They can say Krishna is a human being who was just a strong person. Some people can say he is an avatar. Some people can say he is a demigod. People can say a lot of things. That doesn't make it true.
Right. That is true. Yes. Yes.
Your opinion,
Okay.
my opinion doesn't matter, right? What matters is what is in the scriptures. The scriptures don't
Right.
change for millions of years.
Right. Right. Yeah, it makes more sense now. Then it is monotheistic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else anybody wants to add? Lakshmi Mataji is saying monotheistic, Krishna is the supreme creator and he creates and destroys all. Even Brahma has age limit. Yes, that's right. All the demigods die. Brahma's age limit, anybody remembers? What's Brahma's age according to earthly years?
So 43 trillion years.
It's not 43. Come on. Come on, where are the math scholars?
1.3 trillion.
Now you're making me forget the reality.
300 million. Trillion, I guess.
Now I forgot.
311 trillion years.
Yes, 311 trillion years. There you go. Thank you very much.
I just Googled it.
So Lord Brahma lives for 100 years in his planetary time zone. And that 100 years, so Lord Brahma's day, one day is 1000 yoga cycles. One yoga cycle has Satya, Treta, Dwapar, Kali, right? So 1000 yoga cycles is one day of Brahma. 1000 yoga cycles is one night of Brahma. Brahma lives for 100 years. Multiply that, what you will get is 311 trillion years. So that's the life of Lord Brahma. And that's the lifespan of all the demigods. Because when Brahma dies, the entire cabinet ministry also shuts down. And there is a new Brahma and he appoints new ministers in all the positions of the demigods, right? The new people who have joined, is this clear so far? Am I confusing you? If it's not clear, feel free to ask, because I know you're joining from chapter 6, which is okay. We'll keep discussing a lot of these points over and over again. So your basics will be clear, don't worry. But if you are stuck, do ask. Okay. Debashish Chatterjee is saying, is Lakshmi demigod? It depends. So Lakshmi Devi, who's with Lord Narayan, she's the Alladin, it's called Alladini potency of the Lord, like Alladini Shakti or Shakti Swarup. So in that sense, she's not a demigod. She is Radharani's expansion. But there's material Lakshmi and there's spiritual Lakshmi. There is complications. There are differences, right? So there's Saraswati, who's like Lord Brahma's wife, Saraswati, and there is spiritual Saraswati, who's actually related to Lord Vishnu. So like that, there are differences. But Lakshmi Devi, who you see with Lord Narayan, she's not a demigod, or she's not a demigoddess. She is the internal potency of the Lord. If that answers your question. Not trying to make things too complicated, sorry. Kaushik, it is new for me, but I'm enjoying. Okay, good. Happy to hear that. Thanks. All right. If there are no questions, we'll progress to the next verse. Ragni Mataji, which
question.
Parvati, yeah. Sorry, Navneeta, go ahead. Yeah.
What is the role of Lakshmi Narasimha Swami in Kali Yuga, Prabhuji?
There's not a Kali Yuga role. They have always a role. So Narasimhadev is the expansion of Lord Krishna. So he's one of the avatars who came Satya Yuga time. As Vaishnavas, we look to that form of the Lord for protection, because Narasimhadev is known, he just came to save a 5-year-old boy from child abuse, Prahlad. So Narasimhadev, we see him as our protector and maintainer, just like we see Krishna. But yeah, that's It's the same as Krishna. So again, there's no difference between Nrsimhadev, Lord Rama, Lord Krishna, Vishnu. It's the same person in different aspects. Like my mentor likes to explain, the president in office is Mr. President. The president at home is whatever, Joe, right? Or Narendra or whatever. So similarly, the Lord in office is Vishnu. The Lord in his family time is Krishna. In intimate settings is Krishna. Lord as a king is Lord Rama. Angry Lord is Narsingha, like that. Ragni, sorry Prabhu, I'll read from next session. Is it because you felt bad I talked about the translation being not right?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. No, Prabhuji, not at all. Actually, after saying you that, I ordered my Bhagavad Gita through Amazon online. So it's on the way, might be it
But
will
you can
deliver by
read on Veda base, na? What's the problem?
this-
So well. Anyway, it's okay if you don't want to read, that's fine.
No, Prabhuji, from next session I'll read for sure.
Sure, okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. He's perfect. Okay. Text 32, Shivam, read.
Yes, Prabhu. I'm here. Text 32.
Mhm.
Atma pamyena sarvatra samam pasyati yo.
Arjuna.
Yeah. Arjuna sukham va yadi va dukam sa yogi paramo mata. He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings in both their happiness and their distress. O Arjuna.
Thank you so
Prabhu.
much, bro. He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings in both happiness and distress, O Arjuna. One who is Krishna conscious is a perfect yogi. He is aware of everyone's happiness and distress by dint of their own personal experience. The cause of the distress of a living entity is forgetfulness of his relationship with God. And the cause of happiness is knowing Krishna to be the supreme enjoyer of all the activities of the human being, the proprietor of all lands and planets, and the sincerest friend of all living beings. The perfect yogi knows that the living being who is conditioned by the modes of material nature is subjected to the threefold material miseries due to forgetfulness of his relationship with Krishna. And because one in Krishna consciousness is happy, he tries to distribute the knowledge of Krishna everywhere. Since the perfect yogi tries to broadcast the importance of becoming Krishna conscious, he is the best philanthropist in the world, and he is the dearest servitor of the Lord. Nacha tasman manusheschu kaschin me priya krittama. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 69. In other words, a devotee of the Lord always looks to the welfare of all living entities. And in this way, he is factually the friend of everyone. He is the best yogi because he does not desire perfection in yoga for his personal benefit, but tries for others also. He does not envy his fellow living entities. Here is a contrast between a pure devotee of the Lord and a yogi interested only in his personal elevation. The yogi who has withdrawn to the secluded place in order to meditate perfectly may not be as perfect as a devotee who's trying his best to turn every man towards Krishna consciousness. So Krishna is saying here, is talking about that he is a perfect yogi by comparison to himself, sees with true equality. What is true equality? True equality is, so equality, we talk about man, woman being equal, equal rights, with different sexual orientations, gender, race, caste, everything. But the true equality is the fact that we are all souls, spiritual beings, part and parcel of Krishna. So from that vantage point, we are all spiritual beings, we are all divine beings. So that way we are all equal from that vantage point. Now, materially speaking, somebody is taller, shorter, more intelligent, more wealthy, less wealthy, etc., etc. But from a spiritual vantage, from Krishna's vantage point, he sees all of us equally. He doesn't see the distinction, right? And a perfect yogi also sees it from that vantage point. He sees by comparison to his own self that you're just like me. I am who I am, part and parcel of God. You are also part and parcel of God. Sees the true equality of all beings, not just human beings, but all beings, even a mosquito, even an ant, even a cockroach, right? In both their happiness and distress, Arjuna, right? So sometimes when we feel happy, we feel like everybody is like, good people. Sometimes when we feel sad, we feel like, oh, everybody is like after me, right? Our consciousness makes us think or see the world according to how we feel inside, but that's not true for a yogi. A yogi always sees with equality, not just sees with equality, but also because the yogi is feeling happy in his or her relationship with the Supreme. A perfect yogi extends oneself, regardless of who they are, to give them Krishna consciousness or the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, the knowledge of Vedic science, right? Like we are doing here. So, we don't see, are you this or that? Of course, certain times I have been told by ISKCON that be careful. If you let people from other religion come into your Bhagavad Gita studies, then they might get in trouble from their community, and that might end up hurting them and hurting you in some way. So, I don't make the distinction, but in case there's a problem, I tell them, hey, be careful, make sure you have permission from your home or that you're doing this, in case that becomes a problem, because certain religious communities can be very, very, I don't want to say close-minded, but yeah, that's what it is, right? So otherwise, there is nothing that stops anybody from coming to a spiritual discourse, or for us from extending ourselves to whoever wants to hear about Krishna Katha, right? So that's the sign of a yogi, that he is perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings in both happiness and distress, Arjuna. Now, let me ask you a question. Based on this, who is a yogi? We are in chapter 6, so we're studying yoga and Ashtanga yoga. So who is a yogi according to Bhagavad Gita definition?
One who practices yoga is a yogi. Yoga means,
Brilliant, Prash, brilliant. One who practices yoga as a yogi. So one who practices yoga in a yoga studio but is an atheist, is that person a yogi?
No, that's who practices yoga in a yoga studio. That's a part of yoga, but that's not actually yoga. Yoga means that a connection to with your soul to God. So when you are connecting your soul to God, that's yoga, and also doing that, you are yoga.
So Prayash, so you are becoming a life coach, so you should express in clear terms so everybody can understand, because otherwise people can speculate based on cryptic understanding. So that's right what you said, that yoga means to connect, and those who are connected to the Supreme through bhakti, through gyan, through ashtanga, through karma are yogis. Bhakti yogi, karma yogi, gyan yogi, ashtanga yogi, etc. Right? So that's a yogi, one who's connected to God somehow or other. Okay, Lakshmi Mataji is asking, one with a stable mind is a yogi as per Bhagavad Gita, a person who always fixes his mind in the Supreme. That is a perfect yogi. Fixes his focus on Supreme. There you go, Lakshmi Mataji. Yes, a Supreme. The God part is important. See, we are theists and we are bhakti yogis on top of that. So we do not put God out of the picture. You'll find many Bhagavad Gitas where they talk about all the principles, but for not even once they will mention Krishna, even though it is Krishna who's speaking the whole thing and Arjuna is referring to Krishna. They will just speak hodgepodge, this, that, avoid Krishna out of it. For us, Krishna is front and center, and we are very proud of it. Okay, good. Understood. Moving on to the next verse. Any questions so far?
Yeah, you have, we already heard about equal vision,
Mm-hmm.
and now you are talking about true equality.
Mm.
So is there an overlap, or is it something?
Overlap.
Okay, overlap.
So equal vision is seeing all as souls with Paramatma in the heart.
Okay.
Right? And equality is also that. The Paramatma, regardless of rich, poor, man, woman, whatever you are, is there in the heart. So that equality maintains that you are a temple of God. God is residing in your heart. God is residing in my heart. You are a soul. I am a soul. We are part and parcel of God. And that equality is all throughout.
I remember when we discussed Dvanda Moha at one stage, and I asked you a similar kind of question, and that was hatred, and I forgot the Sanskrit thing. You said it's one part of Dvanda Moha. What it is like.
I know we talked about it. I just don't remember the context. I'm sorry.
So is there in that orientation, like Dvanda Moha is the bigger one, and
Dvanda Moha, doesn't that mean confusion? Dvanda, like two, there's like dilemma, Dvanda, right? How is this connected to equality?
No, it is not connected. What the other day when you explained, it was like affinity and aversion. So that kind of a thing, and one of that part is in the Dvanda Moha. This is one of the so many: tall, short, fat, lean. So affectionate, that kind of a thing you explained. So I'm just trying to relate.
But that applies to material things because there's always duality in material things.
Okay.
In spiritual things, it's always absolute. So the spiritual equality that's being spoken about is about the absolute aspect of it.
Okay. I got it.
Satchidananda, you're Satchidananda as much as I am, or as much as Prayash is, or whoever else is here. Right? So that's absolute. But Dvanda Moha comes when there is material stuff.
Okay.
This pink is more pink than this pink. This brand is better than that brand, etc., etc.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
That doesn't mean we don't have uniqueness. We are unique. At the same time, we are also equal. Now, okay, I'm going to ask a tricky question for all of us. So if we are all equal, is there a difference between Krishna's dearest devotee, Srimati Radharani, and us?
Yes. To what? How absolute they are in doing loving service to Krishna? Yes. They are in a much higher platform or level. We are just about starting, and we might get there in due course of time.
So we don't say higher, lower. So in this case, it's intimate. The level of intimacy that we have with Krishna. Oh, I want to offer you food, or the level of intimacy Radharani has. I want to offer my heart, and everything is yours, right? That's the difference. So equality is there, but intimacy is depending on who has given their heart more to Krishna. That's the level of, that's a difference, if you can say. Sorry, I'm getting into topics that might be a little advanced, but I just thought I'll mention it. Okay, all right, moving on to the next verse. Arjun is going to start speaking. Somebody wants to read? Okay, there's more things. Lakshmi Mataji fixes. Deepak is saying, but Prabhuji, nobody can take the place of Radharani, right? Yeah, that's right. Radharani's place is taken because nobody can love Krishna like her. And also, she's Krishna. She's not Jiva Tattva. We are Jiva Tattva. She is Krishna's internal potency, like Lakshmi Devi. Right? She's actually a Ladini Shakti, personification. So there's actually no difference between Radha and Krishna in one sense. Radha Krishna nahe bhinna. Radharani is Krishna's love potency personification. Right? So there is actually no difference between Radharani and Krishna, or no difference between Krishna and Balaram. It's the same, God Tattva. This is Ishwar Tattva. So God Tattva. So the same thing. Like one time I was explaining to a Westerner who was for the first time seeing Radha Krishna in our Chicago temple. And I said, this is God in his male form. This is God in his female form. She's like, I always thought God has to have a female form. Why is God male everywhere I look? I'm like, there you go. There's Radha Rani. Okay, cool. Okay, anybody wants to read?
Prabhuji, can I read, Prabhuji?
Go ahead, please.
योऽयं योगस्त्वया प्रोक्तः सम्येन मधुसूदन एतस्यहं न पश्यामि चञ्चलत्वत् स्थितं स्थिरम्. Arjuna said, O Madhusudan, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady.
Very nice. So see, this is very beautiful. Now, a lot of times what we see in India, you go to a guru, they say something, you say, thank you, and you move on with life. But here, Arjun is so clearly defying Krishna. It's like, I disagree with you. And that is the beauty of Vedic system. And you should know that this is the Bhagavad Gita, not only Bhagavad Gita, but all our Shastrik, the Puranas are like this, where there's conversation and agreement, disagreement, and Krishna actually beautifully tries to satisfy the other side, right? Being a perfect teacher. So Arjun is disagreeing here. It's like, oh, Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady. The system of mysticism described by Lord Krishna to Arjun, beginning with the word Sucham Deshe and ending with Yogi Parama, is here being rejected by Arjuna out of a feeling of inability. Truly, right? Who's going to be able to find that perfect place, sit on the deer skin, do the perfect meditation on kusha grass, all the things we read, with your mind focused on the tip of your nose, and you're breathing perfectly, your eyes half open, half closed. I mean, for a Kshatriya, for a Brahmana still that's okay. For a Kshatriya, that's like, I'm getting bored so easily, mode of passion. So he's like, sorry, this is not practical, right? So Srila Prabhupada is describing here that it is not possible for an ordinary man to leave home and go to a secluded place in the mountains or jungles to practice yoga in this Kali Yuga, age of Kali. The present age is characterized by bitter struggle for a life of short duration. We live only 60 to 100 years. It's a very short life. And within this life, we are trying to do meditation, tapasya. We have to earn money, pay our bills, take care of our kids, wife, husband, etc., right? So it's very, very impractical. And Arjuna is saying that to Krishna. So let's continue with that thought process. So I'll quickly read the translations, and then we'll go through them one by one. So then he says, so not translate, I'll read the Sanskrit too. Chanchalam hi manaha Krishna param Pramadhi balavad dhriram tasyaham nigraham manye vayuriva su dushkaram. The mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong. O Krishna, and to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind. Wow. So this is what's happening here. Arjun actually is so powerful as a warrior that he can throw weapons, he can throw arrows that can create a tornado. Today we have access to fire weapons. You see the nuclear weapon or bombs or hydrogen bombs. All of those things are fire weapons. But in the Vedic period, there used to be water weapons, fire weapons, air weapons, right? Ether weapons and things like that. So these are things that, you see in Mahabharata serial, like they're chanting the mantra and, and they're throwing the arrow. So what they're doing is they're invoking the different qualities of the arrow, right? So they're invoking the different elements. So fire weapon. So Arjuna is saying, because he can control the wind, he can start a tornado or a cyclone. He's saying that Krishna, it is actually, far to control the mind is far more difficult than controlling the wind, right? Now understand this. Who is Arjun? Arjun is a person when he went to marry Draupadi, right? He won that contest by looking on the reflection of the fish, the revolving fish on top, And looking at the reflection on oil, he was able to penetrate the eye of the fish. So he must have such deep levels of focus. And such a person is saying that it is so difficult to control the mind. And I'm sure as Kali Yuga people, we can all agree with that. Again, when I used to do meditation workshops, I would tell people, because I would get a lot of atheists, so directly jumping to Hare Krishna is not always possible in the Western world. So I would tell them, okay, try to calm your mind and think of nothing. And it would always be the case. Nobody can think of nothing, because when you think of nothing, you're thinking of something. Even nothingness is something, right? So it's not possible to actually be zero with your mind unless you're in coma. Even then you're thinking, actually, you're hearing things and whatnot. I've heard comatose patients wake up after 13, 14 years and they remember everything that happened around them. So the point is, the mind is very strong. And Arjun is telling Krishna that it's impossible to control the mind. And even, for somebody like him who can control the wind, he's like, it's impossible to control the mind. So whatever he's saying doesn't make sense, Krishna. It's impractical, right? The mind is so strong and obstinate. Now, here is a point, by the way, for those of you, again, in the coaching business or does seminars on philosophy and things like that, are preaching. If anybody asks you, what are the qualities of the mind? There's a great verse, right? Beautifully, Arjuna is giving the qualities of the mind. It's restless, chanchalam. It's turbulent. It's obstinate, very dhiravrata, right? I want this now, like a child. I want that balloon, I want it now, or else I'll start crying, right? It's very strong. So strong that sometimes we don't want to do something, but the mind is saying us, do this, and we do it, even though we know it's not good for us, right? So that's what Arjuna is saying. Chanchalam hi manaha Krishna pramadhi baladham balavad dhriram tasyaham nigraham manye, right? So very, very nice verse for mind. I actually had when I was learning Krishna consciousness and I was in college, I took a course called the Philosophy of Mind. We learned Descartes, Shelley, and all these other Western philosophers. And as a project, I took up to speak on the mind, and I asked my mentor, where can I get more information about the mind? And he said chapter 6. So chapter 6, I actually went through and I got these points and I got an A in my project. It was fantastic. I was able to talk about Vedic philosophy, about the mind, and also, get good score. So this verse, the mind is so strong and obstinate that it sometimes overcomes the intelligence, although the mind is supposed to be subservient to the intelligence. There is ego, intelligence, mind, senses. But what happens? Mind takes over the intelligence. That means no discrimination. A lot of times we end up doing stuff that is like zero discrimination. And discrimination not in a bad sense, but in a good sense. Discrimination as in like, I am so and so. This is a social norm. This is the law. I should not be doing this, right? That's discrimination. I want to, but sometimes I feel like killing that person, but I won't do it because it's not the right thing to do, right? Dharmically or legally. But indiscriminate means mind has taken over, intelligence has fallen asleep, and you're like, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to hurt you and I'm going to, cause trouble. So sometimes the mind takes over intelligence, and that's where things become very dangerous. For a man in the practical world who has to fight so many opposing elements, it is certainly very difficult to control the mind. Artificially, one may establish a mental equilibrium. Artificially, as in the yogis do, right? Oh, that's an artificial process. It's not a natural process, because naturally mind is here, there, all over the place. Artificially, we try to calm it down. Equilibrium towards both friend and enemy, but ultimately no worldly man can do so, for this is very difficult, more difficult than controlling the raging wind. In the Vedic literature, Katha Upanishad, it is said, Atmanam Rathinam Vidhi, Shariram Ratham Evacha, Buddhim tu Sarathim Vidhi, Manaha Pragraham Evacha, Indriyani Hayan Ahur, Vishayam Steshu Gocharan, Atmendriya Mano Yuktam, Bhokteti Ahur Mani Sinaha. The individual is the passenger in the car of the material body. The intelligence is the driver. Mind is the driving instrument. And the senses are the horses. The self is thus the enjoyer or sufferer in the association of the mind and the senses. So it is understood by great thinkers. Intelligence is supposed to direct the mind, but the mind is so strong and obstinate that it often overcomes even one's own intelligence, as an acute infection may surpass the efficacy of the medicine. So I'll just quickly share a diagram with you, which most of you who have attended my webinars probably have seen, but it's always nice to go over this. So what is being described in this purport, I'll just quickly showcase. Mental strength. Let me see. Sorry, give me just 1 second. I'll you should be able to see it now. Okay. So this is what is being referred to, right? Katha Upanishad 1.3.3.4. Yes, there you go. So what is being mentioned here, this is how the whole process, very picturesque description. In your Bhagavad Gita as it is, you'll find this picture as well. So the 5 horses are the 5 senses, right? Sight, touch, smell, etc. The mind is the reins of the horses, the ropes. The intelligence is a charioteer who's directing the chariot, the horses in a particular direction. Intelligence says, okay, you need to build a startup, or you need to get a job, or you need to pass your exam, so you need to study hard, or you need to get your skills together, etc. So intelligence can control the mind and pull the senses in a certain direction. Then now is not the time for Netflix. Now is the time for studying. Now is the time for work. Now is the time for eating, etc. And the soul is the passenger in the back seat, either enjoying or suffering. That's you, right? That's us, all of us. And the chariot as a whole is the body. The wheels being day and night, right? 24 hours, 12 hours, 12 hours, day, night. And it's moving towards death. That's a very beautiful Katha Upanishad example given. So the senses are controlled by the mind, by the intelligence, by the desire of the soul. When the soul is asleep, which is a conditioned state, which is all materialists practically are, the soul is sleeping, the intelligence is weak. That means you don't know, you don't have the knowledge to strengthen the intelligence from spiritual sources. Then the mind takes over. I want this now. And that's how the mind kind of takes things, and intelligence works under the mind, which is unnatural. So mind says, I desire to blah. Intelligence says, let me figure out how to get that done. Okay, here, mind, are you happy now? Yes, I'm happy. The proper thing is, I am the soul. I am deciding that I want to be an IAS officer. I want to be a doctor. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be whatever. And for that, I want to go in this particular direction. I want to do these things. And that's how I want to roll. My desire. And the mind is like, but wouldn't you want to just sleep? No, I want to go in this direction, right? So you fight with the mind. When the intelligence is strong, you have full control, and you can work with the mind and tame the mind and say, mind, shut up, don't distract me. I am moving forward, right? Dhiravrata. You can be also Dhiravrata. You can be obstinate, right? So you fight with the mind and you move forward. No lethargy. Lethargy, mind says, come on, not now, maybe 10 days later. No, we need to do this now. Now is the best time. Let's keep moving. So there's constantly this fight. And for that fight to work, the intelligence has to be strengthened. The intelligence has to be strengthened by what? With experience and knowledge. Sometimes we don't have knowledge. So odd experience. So we borrow it. And that's where a mentor, a guru, a teacher comes in, or a parent comes in. They say, hey, I have gone through your age. I have gone through this. And here is what now. A lot of times, just because somebody is older by age doesn't necessarily mean they're the right people to give us guidance, because if their life is not figured out, how can they tell us how to figure out our life? Scriptures, when it's based on scriptures, then Krishna is actually speaking. I remember I was early 20s, probably 23, 24 years old. There was Rath Yatra happening, Jagannath Rath Yatra in Chicago, and we had a massive festival with a lot of tents. And I was the guy who was answering questions for people. So any Tom, Dick, and Harry could come up and they can ask me questions, and I would answer in the scriptures. And there was this gentleman who was 60 years old, and he asked me a lot of beautiful questions, thoughtful questions. And I answered to him, which felt to him that I could understand his problems that he faces at old age. He's like, how are you, being a 20-something-year-old, can understand this? I don't understand. I think you're an old soul. I said, there is no such thing as old soul, because all souls are old and eternal, just like God. We have the same age. But what I'm speaking is from the oldest person in creation, Krishna. And he knows what it feels like to be old. He knows your problems, what you face. And from that vantage point, I'm talking about midlife crisis. I'm talking about all the things. I don't know. I don't have experience, but Krishna does. And he immediately, I want a Bhagavad Gita. I want a book, and he took. So the point is, regardless of what your age is, even if you don't have the experience or the knowledge, you can borrow it from Krishna, and you can borrow it from Krishna's illustrious disciplic succession. His, all the gurus he has provided, all the great teachers he has provided, right? So that's the beauty of us. So when the intelligence is strong with knowledge, then we can tell the mind, sorry, not your time right now. I'm meditating, chanting Hare Krishna. Mind, sorry, not going to be lethargic right now. I'm going to work full force on what I need to do, and I'll do it now, etc., etc. When intelligence is weak, mind takes over. And this whole chapter 6 is dedicated for controlling the mind, because best friend, controlled mind. Worst enemy, uncontrolled mind. That's what Krishna started with, right? Chapter 6, text 6, I believe. So that's where Krishna has been taking us. That controlling the mind is so important if you want to accomplish whatever you want to accomplish, material or spiritual. Right? That's the whole point. So because it is turbulent, obstinate, and very, very strong. Okay, let me pause for questions. Oh, there are already chat sections. Let's see. Please show the diagram one more time. Sure. Feel free to take a screenshot. While you're seeing the diagram, let me see the other questions. Okay. Good occasion. So tough to bring the mind in control. Shivam, you're not the only one. Arjun is also saying it. Please show the, okay. Prabhu, what is the solution for Vashikaran when mind is controlled by other guy? The easy solution is this. Sorry, you cannot see. The easy solution is wearing tulsi mala, kanti mala, right? So when you wear tulsi on your body, people cannot do Vashikaran, tantra, mantra. Ghosts cannot attack you. Nothing. You will be protected. But in case you don't have this, chant Krishna's holy name. That will protect you always. But wearing tulsi, one of the reasons for wearing tulsi is also that. So Pradeep, in spite of having a lot of experience, many people fall into many traps and doing mistakes. Why so? That means their intelligence is gotten weakened. Yes, of course. Intelligence, willpower, everything is weak, and they don't know intelligence. That is material intelligence. There's a difference between material intelligence and spiritual intelligence. Intelligence that is backed by spiritual knowledge, like Bhagavad Gita, is strong, is absolute. Intelligence backed by material knowledge is relative. It sometimes works, sometimes doesn't work. There's duality, dilemma. Spiritual knowledge gives you absolute. Krishna never says probably this, maybe that. He never says that. He says this is how it is. This is the way the mind works. This is the way ego works. This is the way anger works, right? Very direct, very straight to the point. Krishna gives absolute. So when you have absolute spiritual intelligence, then you can go ahead and do the right thing, regardless of what whole world can be against you. And you can still do the right thing because your intelligence is steadfast. Lakshmi Sharma. Prabhu, I have one query. Those healthy ones who died untimely cause of corona, was it their time as life and death and all predestined, I guess? What's the further path for them? Even a person who every day used to recite Vishnu Sahasranam and other mantras also died such way. Where do they go? Same life death cycle or any other way? Their last rites also did not happen properly. How about their souls, Prabhuji? Lakshmi Mataji, so every individual has an individual journey. People have died, yes. Many people have not died. My CA, he had corona like 2 times, and by God's grace, he and his entire family is fine. The point is, we all have a time, and according to time, we live. According to time, even Rakhe Krishna Mare Krishna Rakhe. That's a very important thing to understand. If Krishna wants to save you, and it's not your time, no one can kill you. If Krishna wants to end it, then no one can save you. No doctor, no money. My cousin passed away. His father had 100 crore turnover business. Didn't even have a week at the hospital, and he passed away. Right? No money in the world could save him. So if your time has come, it is your time. That's it. Nothing can be done. And if it's not your time, no matter what, I have heard like 102-year-old corona patients have survived. Right? That's how it is. There is no different process. It's the same process. Just because of corona, the karmic cycle won't change. People who think of Krishna, Ante Narayana Smriti, you think of Krishna at the time of death, you go to Krishna Loka. You think of whatever at the time of death, you go to whatever that might be. That's the process. Ante Narayana Smriti. Chupradeep, does really Vashikaran work? For Vashikaran to work, the tantric has to be powerful. They have to have sense control. But yeah, I have seen tantrics who are powerful, who do maintain certain things, and they are able to do Vashikaran. Not only Vashikaran, a lot of damage through tantra and occult sciences. Of course, the damage that you do to others, you get twice the damage of that. Having said that, yes, people have been able to cause a lot of pain and problems to others' lives through Vashikaran and tantra and other occult black magic and things like that. Lakshmi Sharma. In Ajamil's story, he kept his son named Narayan, and Narayan came to rescue him from Yamas. What's the case for those who really are devotees of Lord Krishna? True, same thing, no difference, same thing, right? There are many places, just give me a second. There are many devotees who have passed away, and at the time they either said, oh wow, Krishna, you have come, or Srila Prabhupada, you have come, or Tulsi Maharani, you have come, right? Because they're thinking of the personality of Godhead at the time of death, and the Lord has either personally come or his representatives have come. There was one Mataji, she all her life took care of Tulsi Devi, but later at the time of a few months before her death, she got paralyzed and she couldn't worship Tulsi, but Tulsi was next to her bed. And at the time of her death, she had a big smile on her face. Her eyes opened up and she said, wow, Tulsi Maharani, you have come. And she left her body. There was the Sudama Maharaj, who was a great preacher, great sannyasi in ISKCON. He was actually the one I was telling the story the other day about, who went to Tokyo and started the whole Japanese ISKCON and translated books in Japanese. But he unfortunately left ISKCON and went back to drugs and illicit sex and whatnot. Again, when he was at his late stage in his life, he got HIV positive, and he came to ISKCON, and the devotees took care of him, and he died in the most auspicious way possible with Tulsi and Shalagram and I think Govardhan Shila and things like that. And again, him also at the time of death, just before leaving his body, his last breath, he said, Srila Prabhupada, you have come. And he had a smile on his face. when he was leaving. So yes, there are many such stories I can tell you that are actually evident, and it is still true that if you have lived a wonderful Krishna conscious life, and the time of death, Krishna will, even if you're not able to think, let's say one is in coma or whatnot, Krishna says, I will inject myself into your consciousness so you can think of me and come back to me. It is my responsibility to bring you back to me. That's how loving Krishna is. So we do our part, Krishna does so much more. But we have to have the desire that, my dear Krishna, I want to be with you. The desire is, my dear Krishna, I don't want you around. Krishna is like, okay, fine, I'll just be hiding in your heart as Paramatma, and you don't have to see my face. No problem. You keep taking birth and enjoying and suffering and enjoying and suffering. And if you ever want to come back to me, just make a desire and I'll be there.
Prabhuji, I had a question.
Yes.
So you said about Tulsi Mala, right? So I was wondering, what's the difference between wearing a Tulsi Mala and wearing a Rudraksh Mala?
It's the Rudraksh and one is Tulsi. It does, but in other sense, Tulsi is Krishna's pure devotee and is very dear to Krishna, and Tulsi has certain properties. Rudraksh has certain properties. Rudraksh has also very powerful properties, but in terms of these things, as Vaishnavas, we wear Tulsi Mala, and it does what I just said. It does. Most importantly, what Tulsi does, it is mandated to the Yamadutas that one who wears Tulsi, Yamadutas don't come close to them. That's not their jurisdiction. So Yamadutas come, and if they say Tulsi, they'll walk away, right? Only Vishnudutas are allowed to take that person. And of course, there's black magic and other things and negative energy that Tulsi kind of absorbs that and protects you from. Okay, I have been having negative vibes, so I started being reading Bhagavad Gita and attending such session, and lastly came to know some of the relations had done Vashikara black magic. Now I'm fine. I would say Krishna showed me the way that I have been. Cool, happy for you. Krishna is the answer to everything. He is the most powerful person, and Vashikaran and everything else is, his potency only. It's negative, but his potency. So Krishna can easily stop that like that. So when you come to Krishna, all your problems are solved. Generally, gradually. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna, everyone. Have a good night.